past 6:30, so I'd like to call this meeting in order. If we could please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Madam Clerk, could I please have a roll call?
Supervisor Alex Sapien.
Here.
Trustee Dean Morelli.
Here.
Trustee Karen Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Ron Alberico.
Here.
Trustee John Wright.
Here.
Highway Commissioner Jim Louch, absent. Assessor Marion Williamson, absent. Collector Jessica Canday, absent. Attorney Gary Mueller, absent.
Thank you. First item on the agenda for Road and Bridge Fund is the approval of minutes for the monthly meeting of July 8, 2025. I will need a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second.
second by Dean Morelli. Any questions on the minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Moving on to bills. I have bills this month in the amount of $305,709.84. I will need a motion to approve the bills.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
Second.
second by Dean Morelli. Any questions on the bills? Hearing none. Madam Clerk, could I please have a roll call?
Sapien.
Yes.
Morelli.
Yes.
Johnson.
Yes.
Alberico.
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Moving on to the Highway Commissioner's reports. I was not left with a report from the Highway Commissioner. Madam Clerk, were you?
I was not.
All right, we'll move on. I have no other business for Road and Bridge Fund. Do we have any final questions or comments from the board? Hearing none, if I could entertain a motion to adjourn the Road and Bridge Fund meeting.
I'll make that motion.
Motion by Karen Johnson,
Second.
second by Dean Morelli. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, Road and Bridge Fund meeting is adjourned. Moving on now to the regular meeting. We have two presentations tonight before we move on and start with regular business. First up, we do have Ms. Rita from CASA. If you would like to go up to the podium, I have the microphone, it's on.
Thank you. Hello, I'm the Executive Director of CASA River Valley, and I first want to start by thanking you. Can you hear me? Is it on? Can you hear me? Here, better?
Sounds a little bit better, doesn't it?
I can hear you.
Okay. So I first want to start by thanking you for giving us the opportunity to share with you updates on the CASA program. And I see some familiar faces, and some of you, it may be new, so I'll start with the background on CASA. So CASA stands for Court Appointed Special Advocates, and CASA River Valley is a not-for-profit organization dedicated to advocating to the best interest of abused and neglected children in the judicial court system in Will and Grundy counties. These children come into care due to situations such as neglect, physical and sexual abuse, domestic violence, mental health issues, and substance abuse. Through no fault of their own, these children are thrust into a chaotic world of new foster parents, homes, teachers, social workers, therapists, and doctors. They become separated from the only family they have ever known. This is where the CASA comes in. In CASA, the volunteers are the source of constant support to the children in foster care. From day one, they meet with the child and make sure that they are adjusting to and healing in their new environment. CASA makes sure that these children do not fall through the cracks of the system. We provide consistency of care throughout the child's journey and advocate for their interests. With a high rate of caseworker turnover with DCFS, having a CASA gives a child the consistent advocate they need to depend on. Having a CASA advocate means children spend less time, an average of 8 months less time in foster care. They are more likely to receive necessary services for their mental health needs and more likely to stay in school. Volunteer advocates pledge to remain on the case for the entire time the child is in the jurisdiction of the juvenile court. This enables us to really develop a relationship with children and make sure that they get their services and support needed to heal. In Will County, annually, there are over 600 children in foster care. Last year, CASA provided services to 447 children, but there are still children going without the stability of a CASA advocate. Our organization is centered on the needs of the child. We actively fight for successful outcomes for the children, whether that means ensuring compliance with the parents before they return to their home or in the safe foster home or adoptive home for permanency. CASA is dedicated to helping children in ways that go above and beyond the minimum the system provides. We had 2 children under our care who had been removed from their household due to the mother's drug abuse and domestic violence. When the mother was unable to complete her required therapies, the children were going to go to Illinois foster care. CASA was able to locate a father in New York, and we helped the father to reunite with the kids and provide permanency. The kids were transitioned to their New York home. We were able to help a child who had been unjustly removed from their home as well. In such a case, a clerical error led to the removal of the child whose parents had been complying with services. CASA testified in court, and because of our intervention, the child was returned home immediately. Our work is very necessary to supplement an overburdened system. We fight for children to receive permanency in a timely manner. Unfortunately, Illinois DCFS currently ranks at the bottom of the nation in achieving permanency. Over the past 3 years, CASA has helped the average adoption wait time for these children to go from 2.5 years to 1 year. The goal of our organization is to increase awareness of child abuse and neglect and to serve 100% of the children in need of a CASA. The cost to train and support advocates are $1,500 per child a year. So the support we are requesting would provide 3 volunteer advocates to additional children who would be entering the foster care in the coming year. The overburdened foster care system has never recovered from the challenges of the pandemic. In today's fiscal environment, programs are marked by significant federal grant funding cuts. The CASA staff and volunteers remain resilient. We're tenacious and unwavering in our commitment to the children we serve in our community. Securing adequate resources is essential to ensuring that CASA River Valley program is equipped to navigate the budgetary challenges and deliver court-ordered advocacy, care coordination, and support services to children in need. On average, as I mentioned, it costs about $1,500 per year per child to sustain these critical services. CASA served 10 children from the Lockport Township community, alongside with 14 children from Romeoville and 10 children from Crest Hill last year. We respectfully request a donation of $5,000 to ensure Lockport Township most helpless children get the resources they need. CASA delivers essential advocacy and support services at no cost to our children and families. We rely heavily on the generosity of our donors to empower our volunteers to be steadfast champions for the youth in our community. Your partnership directly supports life-changing outcomes for children who depend on us. CASA River Valley is greatly appreciative of our partnership with the Lockport Township over the years. We could not do our work without your support. So thank you for your consideration, and we do hope that you are able to support us by providing the senior shuttle for our upcoming train ride in December, if you're able to do that as well. So we're greatly appreciative. Thank you. And are there any questions?
Thank you for your
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next on the presentation list, we do have Ms. Addison Way, who is our intern here at Lockport Township for the summer. I'm going to start by sharing our screen here, but Addie has been with us for most of the summer, and she's actually done some really good work. Some of it which is actually on the table in front of you, so if you'd like to take a peek after the presentation, you can. And the other is a project that I think will really benefit the township. And so I'm going to start now with sharing the screen. To the side. All right, but with that, if Addie, you want to take it away?
Yes, it's so sweet.
You want to test it? Yeah, we did.
Okay. I would just like to first start off by saying thank you all for joining us tonight. I really appreciate it. I just want to give a quick overview of my internship here at the township this summer. First off, I want you guys to get to know a little bit about me. My name is Addie Way. Obviously, I've been the intern here this summer. I'll be going into my senior year at Lockport Township High School this upcoming fall. In my future, one of my main goals is hopefully to become a lawyer. I would love to go to law school and earn my JD. I've always been really interested in government and politics. This internship has really helped improve my knowledge of all of that and really further my interest. Outside of work, my main hobbies are playing sports. As you can see here, I play basketball and softball, and I've played those for a very long time. I also enjoy hanging out with my friends, reading, as well as hanging out with my family and my new puppy, Jessie. First off, I had two main goals for this summer. First off being the cheat sheet, which is the packet that you guys have in front of you. Essentially, I went around the community and interviewed different elected officials. In the picture here, you can see I met with Representative Avalar, and also I met with different Senator Capel and different people in the community. I essentially asked them different questions about their work, what they liked, what they didn't like, what their responsibilities were. I gathered their contact information, I took notes down, and when I came back to the township, as you can see in the sheet, I wrote down basic information about their responsibilities, more personal stuff about examples of how they have helped people, and their contact information. Hopefully this can help residents understand what their officials do and how they actually help them, as well as if they need to contact them, they can do so using the information provided. Secondly, I'd say a bit bigger of a goal that I did this summer was help to create a digital newsletter. There were many challenges like how do we format it, how do we get people's contact information, what information do we need, how do we store that. In 4 steps, I helped to create a newsletter. The first being obtaining a platform that would help to store people's information, as well as create the format that you see on the right side. That platform was Constant Contact. It allows you to obtain people's information and store it in lists. So as soon as you press the send button, the newsletter will automatically be sent out to the people that have signed up for it. As well as I created that design on that website, so it allows you to create things as well. The second step being, what information do we need from people and how are we going to get that information from people? The answer to that is Google Forms, which is shown here. People can fill this out. Their required information is just your email and where you live, and they can also optionally fill out what their name is. That'll automatically be uploaded onto a spreadsheet, which can be automatically uploaded onto Constant Contact. So as soon as you click the send button to give the newsletter out there, people will automatically receive it. Can you go back to the third goal or thing I had to understand was, how do people find out about this? How do they sign up? How will they know that we have it since it's new? And 3 easy steps as social media, our website, and QR codes solve that issue. On social media, we have a Facebook page. Posting that will help people understand that we have this new thing. They can click the link, sign up, and that's done. The second, posting on our website, we update it, we put a little thing, we put the link, they can sign up, that's done. And then QR codes. So if you scan the QR code on here, it'll automatically take you to the Google form. That'll be printed on our printed out newsletter, so as soon as people see that, they can take their phone out, scan it, and they'll understand what it is. And then the fourth and final step was to create a sample newsletter, which is shown right here. The main point of a newsletter is to keep people updated, to keep people informed about what's going on in the township. Different events that are going on and things they can sign up for and stay in the know about. With the help of this newsletter, it shows past events that have already happened that people can see a recap on, different events that are coming up that they can sign up for, as well as different information about our supervisor and different resources that we've had at the township that they can helpfully utilize, as well as our contact information, which is listed at the bottom. Just showcasing the look ahead, different events as well, and then the further you get down, the more it says about resources that we have here at the township. That is all. I would just like to say thank you for taking the time to listen to me and about my internship this summer. I'd also like to give a big thank you to Alex for having me be the intern this summer, as well as Carrie and Mila for always putting up with me and making work so fun. And I would like to open it for questions or feedback.
Awesome. Can we give Eddie a big round of
Yes.
applause? Thanks so much, Addie. Does the board have any questions either about Addie or a little bit of the work that she did? I do think one thing that we really try to do at the township is have Addie really work on a project that would, one, really hone her skills, but two, ultimately this isn't project work where we made her go fetch some coffees or make some, fetch coffees or make copies or anything. This is work that we can take away and actually use with our residents, right? When residents can read this and learn more about township officials, and then the digital newsletter is a nice little project that can help us communicate with residents as well. But anyone have any questions or anything, want to learn a bit more or have any feedback or anything?
I have just a question. So this is neat. But I noticed we got the mayor of Lockport, but not Crest Hill or Romeoville. Is that, they just weren't available? We're going to add that later, or?
Yeah, we'll be adding this. This is just like a really good start. We only had so much time, but I think she did a great job of
Yeah.
making there.
I guess I'd just like to say, I'd like to see the township move forward with technologies that we are, because I'm an old guy, I don't understand technologies, but it's great that we are stepping forward. Thank you.
Awesome.
Good job.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you want to tell the board about, I know you met with one of our officials, Sunny. Do you want to tell them a little bit about that and how that was a little bit unique
Oh
for
yeah.
other officials?
So like I said, I want to be a lawyer, but I've never been in a courtroom. So one of my first times as being in the courtroom was when I met Sunny. I sat in and I saw and heard a couple of cases, and then I was lucky enough that since I was an intern, she talked to two attorneys. When they went to a closed session, I was able to sit in on a testimony as well as when the attorneys were talking to her, and just like a private case, I was able to sit in and hear all about that. So that was really special, and it also furthered my interest because it was something I've never done before, and it was really cool.
Awesome. Any final questions or anything from the board? Thanks so much, Addie.
Thank you.
All right. We'll move on now to regular business. First is the approval of minutes. We have two sets of minutes tonight. One is for the monthly meeting of July 8th, 2025. And the other is the release of the executive session minutes for January 27th, 2025. I will need a motion to approve those sets of minutes.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second.
second by Dean Morelli. Do we have any questions on either of the two sets of minutes? Hearing none. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, minutes are approved, motion carries. Moving on. Okay. Moving on to bills. We have three sets of bills tonight. For town, I have bills in the amount of $194,971.85. For senior, I have bills in the amount of $18,755.95. And for GA, or general assistance, I have bills in the amount of $26,834.78. Do we have any questions on either of the three sets of bills? Hearing none, I could entertain a motion to approve all three sets of bills.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Ronald Rico,
A second?
second by Karen Johnson. Madam Clerk, could I please have a roll call?
Johnson,
Yes.
Morelli,
Yes.
Alberico,
Yes.
Sapien,
Yes.
Wright.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on, do we have any public comments from any residents tonight?
Alex, I just was going to bring up, I know when Rita from CASA mentioned about the funding, I know we do have a line item for CASA. However, it was a little different what she was requesting. Do we discuss that and vote on it? Or is that something we do at the next meeting, or how is that?
Sure, give me one moment, let's finish up public comment and then
Okay.
we'll address that. It's our final call for any public comments from residents. All right, hearing none, move on to reports. But before reports, to address your question, Trustee Morelli, yes. So I believe the amount that was requested by Rita from CASA is a different amount than the line item. In the line item, we have 2,000. So the way it works, it goes one of two ways. For the 2,000, because that's in our budget, it's a line item, we can just mail out the check. But for the remaining amount that is 3,000, we have two options. If we have an amount available in other line items that are relevant, like community organizations, etc., then we as a board can vote on it, and I'm happy to put it on the agenda for September. We can vote on it there. If there are no line items available, or we can't seem to find the funding in these line items, then we'll have to wait to either amend the budget or introduce that new line item or increase that line item in, come the new budget in the new fiscal year. Okay. But yeah, ideally we'd like to consider it sooner rather than later. So after the meeting, happy to look at the finances and discuss with you as well to see if we can find funding in other line items. Did that answer your question?
Just, thank you.
All right, moving on to reports. Madam Clerk, clerk's report. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Supervisor. In the past month, the clerk's office has continued to see many people for notary services and baby diaper distributions. I would also like again to remind the board one last time to complete your required OMA training prior to the deadline of August 17th, 2025, which is 90 days after taking your oath. I will need everyone to turn in their training certificates to me as well, please. My deputy clerk continues to purge our office records to comply with the Local Records Disposal Act. As another reminder, I encourage each office holder to also begin the yearly required record purging as well. Lastly, I am pleased to announce that the clerk's office has arranged for the company HerScan to come to the Township building for 2 events. I will be using my clerk's conference room for these events. HerScan is a traveling organization that offers breast cancer ultrasound screening. They bring their mobile medical team to our location. Their staff handles all pre-registration sign-ups and phone calls, along with all marketing materials tailored to our specific needs. They will be here in my conference room on Friday, September 19th, 2025, and Wednesday, October 29th, 2025. This service is open to the public, and the schedule is available by going to www.herscan.com. I've also included the flyers that she sent me this afternoon on both events. If anyone has any questions, just let me know, and that's all. Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Does anyone have any questions for the clerk? Thank you. Move on to the assessor's report. I know the assessor is not present here tonight, but she did leave me a report that she asked me to read to the board. So I'll read it. It goes as follows. There are just a few reminders from the assessor's office regarding 2025 assessed values. Notices of revised assessment will be mailed from the Will County Supervisor of Assessment's office tomorrow, August 6, 2025. Notices are only mailed to property owners whose assessed value was changed by the Township Assessor. The deadline to file an assessment appeal with the Will County Board of Review is September 8, 2025. Information for filing an appeal is on the Will County Supervisor of Assessment's website. Property owners with a question about their 2025 assessed value should call the assessor's office at 815-838-0780. And that is all for the assessor's report. Move on now to the building report. The report I have for this month is regarding the parking lot expansion. So on August 1st, which was last Friday, Trustee Morelli, as well as the Township Senior Maintenance and I, we had a meeting here at the Township with the City of Lockport, and as well as the engineers from the Will Group, who are the engineers who are creating the preliminary diagram and proposal to potentially create a detention pond on the west side of the township and then expand our parking lot. And so upon meeting with them, the engineer pitched the proposal, etc., and I'm happy to report that the City of Lockport agreed and approved for us to move forward. Now, at this time, that meeting was the final part of the contract with the engineer. This contract was one that we approved, the previous board approved late last year. So now that this contract is done, the engineer is now drafting up a new contract for now this next phase of this project, which is to draft a more in-depth proposal and then create a bid packet, so this can, the specs, so this can go out to bid. The timeline for that is we're hoping to have the proposal for the board to consider in the September meeting, and then if we decide to move forward with that proposal, the engineering firm would then draft up the bid specs over the course of the next 2 months, and the hope is that we would then go out to bid early next year. Any questions on the building report?
So we had talked about before about whether to use that whole area up there or a portion of it. Does the engineer have a direction on that, or are they coming up with different possibilities, or where are we going?
Sure. So I don't have the diagram in front of me, and I'll make sure that the engineer sends me the most recent, newest diagram, which I will forward to the board. But essentially what we are doing is we are expanding the parking lot as much as we can here on the west side. There will be a detention pond up on the west side. We have to create a detention pond regardless of what we decide to build. So we'll expand the parking lot on the west side. We're not touching the south side at all. We don't have any property there. And then over on the east side, we're not fully expanding it 100% up until the entrance. It's closer to more like 50%. But then up on this north side, we won't be expanding the parking lot. As my conversation with individual board members, we wanted to have one side of the township have some sort of vacant lot in case of any future projects. Having said that, we will be expanding. We will be adding a mini driveway to the west side of the new garage, just because at this time we do have a garage door on the west side, and it's currently all grass, so it's not a usable door at the moment. But other than that, we're looking at keeping that side of the property untouched, which also is the easiest part because we have a lot of septic, a lot of other things underneath, and documentation. We worked with the county for a couple of months. We've worked on this in the past, and documentation for everything that is there underground is very, very limited. And so that would likely require an additional study, change orders, etc., excavation. So at this time, we're looking at just leaving it as is. But I will request, he did have a new design. I will be sure to forward to the board.
I have a question.
Yes.
With the meeting with the city, were they, I guess, let me get to the point, curbs and gutters and lights, are they saying we have to have that, or we don't have to have that, or are we planning on that?
Dean, if you could correct me and fill me in here. They did let the engineer know that there is an ordinance that would require some of those parts. If I remember correctly, they did require curbs and gutters, and then they wanted like a little island like you see over at Walmart, and then I don't remember if there was anything else, Dean.
No, curb and gutter on the south side, like you said, that's kind of shut off anyway.
Yeah.
Around the back, there'll be curb and gutter, but there'll be a way for the water to run through, And on that side, they're letting us keep it without the curb for right now, because like Alex said, there might be some future decisions made over there. And as far as the islands, I know they talked about it. I don't know exactly where or how many. I think once we get the specs from the engineer, we'll be able to either negotiate with them or see, because I mean, obviously, there's no use behind the building. I mean, if they want one or two in front of the building.
What about lighting?
Yeah, that would be part of it.
Yeah, they did. I don't know if they specifically mentioned lighting, but they did mention islands. So.
Okay.
Maybe
Yeah.
nice to have some lighting.
Sure. Like I said, we've got a nice light on the front of the building. I know we can put one on the back side, or if they've got requirements, it's not going to be that much.
Yeah. All right, just kind of wondering. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Alex, I have a quick question.
Yes.
Could it be possible to speak with the engineer about maybe creating a frontal barrier to protect the front of our building? Ron, you talked about that in years past. What's to prevent someone from driving straight into our building?
Okay.
This building does lend itself.
It does. So, we had talked in the past, we joked, Target had the round spheres out front, but if there was some kind of curving or something that they could put in front for safety.
Okay. Good to know. I made a note of that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Anything else regarding the parking lot? All right, we'll move on to mental health. At this time, we'll just look at the invoices. So I do have the invoice for the month of June, and then I mentioned that the July invoice is incoming. I did receive it this morning, so I did include a copy of the July invoice in everyone's packet. For the month of June, we were at a little above $12,600 for the month. For the month of July, we're at a little over $12,200 for the month. This is a little bit lower than previous months, but it also tracks with behaviors. We usually tend to go down over the summer, and then we likely will see an increase in the colder months, specifically in the winter. We do have enough funding for an additional month, but also at this time we are due for a new approval, given that this is a new board in the new term. But I have potential approvals for that in the approval section that we'll discuss in a little bit. But in the meantime, did anyone have any questions on these invoices regarding the community mental health project? All right. So we'll move on now to the senior bus report. So regarding the senior bus in the month of July, the senior buses, about 497 trips or total rides. The senior buses were operational a total of 21 days, which averages out to about 23.7 rides per day, which is within our average. Now, our average rides per month did go down slightly from 526 in the past month to 522. But again, we are still slightly above our 2024 average. Anyone have any questions regarding the senior bus report? We'll move on now to general assistance. So for general assistance reports, I have two reports in everyone's packet. One is labeled the system activity report, and one is labeled grant disbursements. We look at system activity report, which has several numbers outlined on a table. You'll see that we had 22 total applications this month. I will say this is a considerable increase from previous months on average. We average between 8 and 10. This is not the second month where we've seen a pretty large increase. I will say that there's one main reason why we are seeing an increase, and that is because the LIHEAP, which is the utility assistance program that many residents do rely on, has run out of funding, and I know they did lose a big chunk of their federal funding. And as such, any residents that now apply for LIHEAP are being referred to us. And so we have seen an increase in applications. We have been able to work on these in a timely fashion, but we have seen an increase and will continue to see an increase for the foreseeable future. Having said that, of those 22 applications, 3 at the time of the creation of this report were still in process. 19 were not eligible for general assistance. But of those 19, 14 were eligible for emergency assistance, and there was a total grant amount given out in the amount of $11,611.20. If we look at now the report labeled grant disbursements, we see that $11,600 was distributed among 21 grants total to 11 people. And again, we see these two amounts match. Do we have any questions on the general assistance report? Hearing none, we'll move on. I have no old business at this time, so we'll move on to new business. So the first piece of new business is regarding the food pantry. So the food pantry, want to give everyone a quick refresher that Trustee Karen Johnson and I have met with the Township Attorney Gary Mueller, along with senior management from the Lockport Fish Food Pantry that resides here in our building. We met with them several weeks ago, and at the time, the next steps were, one, for us as a township, us, Trustee Johnson, to present to this board the idea that the Fish Food Pantry senior management team wants to retire, and they would like to propose that the township, acquire the food pantry so that it's formally under township as opposed to being a third party. I did check in with them to see how their board reacted, and they let me know that they did have an official board meeting actually yesterday, and that their board officially gave the green light. And so with that, I'm now just going to discuss with the attorney so we can establish some formal points of contact, but it does look at this time we'll continue to move forward. But the next step in this process, now that there is a green light from them, is for them to pass on their bylaws as well as some other documentation that the attorney needs for review. And then once that happens, again, I'll continue to update the board, but then we would then draft some sort of agreement or proposal the attorney would make that I would then present to the board. Any questions regarding the food pantry? All right. Next, move on to Bonnie Bray tree trimming. I did send out a quick email, but the tree trimming did start out in Bonnie Bray last Tuesday. I actually went out today, and they're actually wrapping up, hoping that they finish up by end of this week. But I will say I have received phone calls from residents, and all of them have been positive feedback. They're very grateful that this service is being offered, and especially with school starting next week, it's going to make it a lot easier for students to get on the bus and everything, because there's going to be a lot less low-hanging branches. With that, we'll move on to our approvals section. The first is something that the board has seen in the past, and that is regarding our formal agreement with Jewel Osco. So just to give a quick refresher to the board, and for those that may not be fully aware, but we at the township have a formal agreement with Jewel Osco. In previous years, what that agreement looked like was covering shingle shots for seniors and people over the age of 55. And then we noticed that during and after COVID, the amount of shingle shots that we were covering decreased significantly. We do have a line item for shingle shots for $40,000, but in the time after COVID, we saw that we were only handing out or funding about 2 shingle shots per year total, meaning our usage went down from $40,000 to $400. And so last year in the previous administration, when I met with Jewel Osco, we discussed ideas of how we could offer certain other services in an attempt to fill in and use these $40,000 worth of funds. And at the time, we did agree that we would offer
I am so sorry.
and what we agreed on at the time is that we would continue to offer the shingle shots vaccine, but then we would offer a variety of health screenings for seniors. And those health screenings are mainly A1C readings, cholesterol reading, blood glucose reading, and blood pressure readings. And that was just for people the age 55 and older. There were several other health screenings as well that were offered, but in an attempt to take a phased approach, we didn't want to overextend ourselves. And so that agreement was formally approved by the then board last year. Well, since then, it has now been over a full year since we've had this program, and we advertised it very heavily in the newsletter. And while we've seen some success, we're still nowhere near the $40,000 mark. In fact, we're seeing closer, for as opposed to the shingle shots, we were seeing $400 per year. We're seeing closer to about $400 per month. So it has increased, but we're not seeing as much as demand as we hoped for. And so I actually called a couple of the residents that have taken some of these screenings, and I asked for their feedback. They like what was offered, but they mentioned that a lot of these are everyday services that they get at their doctor, and they'd like to see an increase in other vaccinations offered or other screenings. So that's when my office and I, including actually our intern Addie, we met with Jewel Osco again, the pharmacist, and said, what if now we expand to include those other screenings that you mentioned? And when we took a look at the numbers, we're now including, we've now expanded our vaccination list from just shingles to now include the COVID vaccine, RSV, Tdap, hepatitis B, and pneumonia. And then in terms of health screenings, we're now also potentially offering, well, we're currently offering pink eye, anti-nausea, but now we'd also be offering any flu and strep testing and migraine testing, and then there's two others there that I don't know how to fully pronounce. But taking a look at the numbers, you know, we'd be well still with, even if this went to the full amount, we'd still be well within the budget to cover for all of these services. But I think it'd be a good idea if we expanded this partnership, include more of these services. But also, I think it would be a good idea if we now remove the age limit, meaning we're no longer requiring them to be 55 and older, but now it's anybody of any age at the township, whether that's someone going back to school or, you know, middle-aged adults or a senior. So, but with that, I'll hand it over to the board for discussion.
Well, my first question would be the funding. If we lower the age, it has to come out of both town and
Correct.
senior? Okay.
Correct. Yep, and when I had looked at the numbers, originally the amount we were looking at was closer to like 30 to 50,000, which is why I said, oh, let's just start with our seniors. And that was assuming that every single senior that did go to Jewel would then come to us, right, which wasn't the case. But now, again, if we did see a full demand, 30 to 50,000, regardless of age, again, that's assuming they all come to us, but we'd have to split the funding between senior and town. And thankfully, Jewel does a really nice job of giving us a very itemized invoice that finance uses. And so we'd be able to see, you know, a proportion, saying, oh, 80% of these are seniors, 20% are town, therefore 80% of the invoice needs to get paid out of senior and 20% needs to get paid out of town.
I just got a small question, Alex.
Yes, Dion?
On number 2, it says eligibility and billing, and then it says something about the patient must be approved by Lockport Township.
So you're referencing
Yeah,
point number 2 on page 1?
yes. And could you elaborate just a little bit on must be approved? I mean, would the ladies upstairs in your office be scanned?
Oh, yes. Yes, that is a good point.
Third party? Or?
Yes, thank you for actually reminding me that I should explain how the general process works logistics-wise. So logistics-wise, we'll take shingle shots, a shingle shot, for example. If you're a resident that would like a shingle shot, in order to be covered by the township, what you do is you give the township a call, and then you say, I'd like a shingle shot, and I'd like it on this day at this time. And they also do walk-ins, so the times and dates are very flexible. If you wanted to do it the next day, you could do it. You could just say, I just want a shingle shot tomorrow. They're very, very flexible. So then at the township, like you mentioned, the lady upstairs or the secretary, we take in the person's information. So their name and their address and their phone number. The address is just to verify that they are a resident of Lockport Township. That information then goes into a locked and shared confidential spreadsheet that only Jewel Osco has access to. And so if the individual would like to go to the Jewel Osco location in Lockport, there's a special confidential spreadsheet that only Lockport Jewel can see. And they are viewing that spreadsheet, you know, on a daily basis. We confirm their time slot. They then go the next day or whenever they'd like to get their shot. They get their shot. They take their insurance with them. Their insurance will pay what they can. Whatever the insurance doesn't cover gets invoiced to us. If they don't have insurance for any reason, the township covers the full cost. But at no point does a resident ever see any sort of bill. They just walk in, get their service, walk right out.
Okay, and then it says the patient, the township will notify the pharmacy through email. That's the part you're talking about, the spreadsheet, right?
Yes.
Okay, just wanted to make sure it wasn't something different. Okay, thank you.
Yep, of course. Any questions from other members of the board? Just a quick little temperature check. I've heard from 1/2 board members. Karen, Dean, how are we feeling about this proposal?
I believe it's a good idea. Of course, you know, like I said, it's going to be something new. So, I mean, you know, I guess we can always fall back if it gets, you know, out of control or out of hand. I know we've got a line item for a certain amount, and as long as we stay in that ballpark, I think it'll work out. Like I said, we can always adjust if we have to.
Yeah. My thought is, given that we have experience with the mental health program, and that's been a huge success, if we can use that as our control group. I think it took about 2 or 3 months for us to even notice a demand for the mental health program. And then after those 3 months, it really skyrocketed, and then it got to this point, I'd say probably 6 to 8 months in. And so if we were to follow a similar trajectory here, and we noticed, oh, maybe we need more funding, then that would actually align well with the drafting of the new budget next year, or in the new fiscal year. So if for some reason we saw this going out of control, we'd be able to see it, from a distance and either adjust our budget or we could readjust the contract.
That was my question. Isn't the contract for a year normally, but we can change it?
Correct. So we'll review it, but there is a clause for it to be severed. We just have to give 30 days notice.
Is there anything in there about not to exceed or anything like that?
Like not to exceed. So we get billed monthly. I guess we get billed monthly for this.
Yeah, so we just have to monitor. Yeah, I'm in favor of it. I think there's some question as to what might happen in the fall with people getting COVID vaccines, so this is just an extra safety net for people.
Yes, okay. Quick question, so to answer the question on termination, so page 3, section 5, term and termination. The term of this agreement should automatically terminate on August 31st, 2026, unless terminated by any of the following. And then first subsection I is without cause upon 30 days written notice from either party. So if we did want to terminate or adjust it, we do have the reason to do that. Yes, I do think this would be great for many reasons, but one of them being there is a need for this, especially come the fall. So, all right, with that being said, if I could entertain a motion to approve the Jewel Osco health screenings and vaccines service agreement.
I'll make that motion.
I have a motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second it.
a second by Ron Alberico. Madam Clerk, could I please have a roll call?
Wright,
Yes.
Alberico,
Yes.
Johnson,
Yes.
Borelli,
Yes.
Sapien.
Yes. All right, motion carries. Moving on now, I have a resolution 2025-1 and then an intergovernmental agreement, or an IGA. While they're two separate documents, they're regarding the same exact project. So, again, I want to refresh the board's memory that we do have a great community mental health program where any resident that's within the township's boundaries, regardless of insurance status or age, can essentially call the Lockport Fire Department through a secure line and ask to be matched or receive mental health counseling. They are then matched with a counselor from an organization known as ThriveWorks, where ThriveWorks has a variety of counselors. Within 48 hours, they are scheduled a session, which is within 1 week of the call. And from then on, residents have access to completely free mental health sessions. And I say completely free in the sense that if an individual does not have insurance, the township covers this. If they do have insurance, the insurance covers what they can, and any co-fees or deductibles are covered by, again, the township. And so this project has seen an immense amount of success to the point where other townships are now participating. So this originally started in Joliet Township, and it's now in the city of Joliet. Lockport Township, we were the second to get on board. It's now also in Plainfield Township, and also Troy Township. So it's been a very popular program. Again, the hope that the townships are pushing for is that this would get spread than to the county, at the county level. Having said that, the board may notice that the invoices I had for ThriveWorks we're down to, we're down our funds for that amount. We do have a line item in general assistance that would cover us for the next several months, and we make large deposits every several months. And we do have enough to cover for this month of August, but we would potentially need to deposit another amount. So before we do that, because this is now a new term, it is recommended by the attorney that this new board, consider the continuation of this program. And so for that, upon speaking with legal counsel, he actually drafted 2 documents. One is, I'll go in reverse order. One is about an IGA, so an IGA between Lockport Township, the Lockport Township Fire Protection District, and then with the organization known as ThriveWorks. So this would be an IGA that would just finalize or formally approve of this program. And then right before then is a resolution. And what the resolution is, it's a resolution that would authorize me as a supervisor to be able to sign upon any of those contracts that would again formalize this program. So again, in the past we had a formal contract with ThriveWorks, but now we need a formal contract between ThriveWorks, the fire district, and the township. And I would need to sign that, so I would need board's permission, 1, to sign it, but then 2, board's formal approval to enter into any of those agreements. So with that, I'll open it up to the board for discussion regarding the program.
May I say that from the looks of it, by the reports, that this program is a very great success, and so I agree to continue. It looks like it's a necessary service that the community needs.
Thank you, Trustee Wright. Do we have any comments or questions from other board members?
I just wanted to say, I also agree, it's a necessary issue. However, I know we've talked in the past about how the county, has mentioned about stepping in and stepping up to the plate or whatever. And I know we get these reports, of course, sometimes, not that they're confusing. I mean, I obviously see where the money is going. I mean, we just assume that ThriveWorks, is basically following all our rules as far as township residents, how many times somebody can actually use the service in a row. I mean, is it a year, is it a month, and stuff like that. It would be nice to have maybe a little bit more information from ThriveWorks as pertaining to that. Maybe, like, if a resident calls up, like, how many appointments? I mean, do we know that?
Sure.
You know what I'm saying? I know obviously with the amounts, some people have some type of coverage, some people probably don't. And once again, I always kind of mention that, I mean, on our property tax bill, we do have money going to basically the same type of mental health issue already. So now, the township residents of Lockport are, getting, some of their tax dollars now is extra going to this. Like I said, I know it's necessary and it's a good idea. It's just, keeping a closer eye on it, I guess, is what I'm getting at.
Sure. Yeah, so I'd like to acknowledge a few of the points you made. So one regarding questions on data. So I know, ThriveWorks does give me some reports on data. I think it's every quarter. And I want to say it was November of last year where, again, the previous board, we were giving large chunks, but because it was coming out of the town fund and we didn't have a legitimate, formal line item, we were approving large amounts every 6 months or so. And so I believe it was in November. I did bring some data that I requested from ThriveWorks, and I'm happy to request it again for an update. But I do believe that they are answering phone calls and scheduling sessions within 48 hours and then having sessions within 6 to 7 days. but again, I'll request a formal report. In regards to rules regarding residency or amount of sessions. So the residency, that's actually done by the fire department. So when the board formally approved of this agreement, I think it was about a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago, we approved for this program and approved funding for it, and then the fire district had to undergo a similar process, and their board had to approve it, etc. And so part of kind of their end of the deal is they actually hired a staffer to fully take on these phone calls, and we're in regular communication with them. So they have one person on staff whose entire job is to be receiving these phone calls and helping schedule sessions with ThriveWorks. And not only do they receive the phone calls, but they actually check in with residents every time there's a session, just to make sure, right, that they did go through their session, that there wasn't anything that's discouraging them from their session. Catching any weird questions, make sure they're not getting billed. And so they're the ones who are verifying residents. They have the website and the tools. And then when we receive this invoice, so there's a confidential spreadsheet between the fire district and ThriveWorks, and then one individual at the township. And so it matches this code with the address. And so we make sure that before we do approve the invoice, that we're also verifying residency as well. In terms of the number of sessions, so at this time we don't have we don't have any limits on sessions. If someone wants a session and they feel they need treatment indefinitely, they can do that. Now, the prices of the sessions are capped, and that's noted in the contract. It's not like they're all of a sudden their costs are going to skyrocket to $5,000 a month. They have the session, it's $200 a month, and they continue that for however many sessions they need. I know ThriveWorks does include in their metrics the average amount of sessions that a resident does, and they have a maximum. I don't have those numbers off the top of my head, but I can surely request those.
So you just basically want, Mr. Morello, you just saying that you want to make sure that we're not overbilled?
I'm not necessarily overbilled. Just, like I said, I just am concerned that, if somebody needs, 20 sessions compared to somebody that just needs one, do we give them 20 sessions? Well, it sounds like we do. We got no limit to how many times they can go. Like I said, I know as far as what you've said, put into this so far, it's not, a small chunk of change. We are contributing a lot of money, and I know it's great that the fire department has somebody hired to help out, but they don't contribute funds. So, and like I said, the fact that, like I said, property tax bills, there's already a mental health charge for the citizens of the county. So, like I said, just so we keep a close eye on it.
Yeah.
I guess, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, and I think the point you make about, taxes, I think is good. We should be fiscally responsible, and it is the job of the board, to be the tax watchdogs, as we, often refer to them. I will make one point. Yes, there was a referendum a few years back, and there's now a line item on people's property tax bill, including my own, that there's a certain amount of money that's being paid towards for the county to fund a mental health program. And I will say two things. One, I've strongly expressed my dissatisfaction to the county that such program is still not formally launched, and so have other townships and the fire departments, which is why we have been spreading this program to other townships in an attempt to pressure the county to finally take this over. Fortunately, they have some other political issues going on. But then secondly, in terms of if residents are double paying on their taxes, I want to quickly note that this is funded through our General Assistance Fund, which is our public aid fund. And our General Assistance Fund, we don't levy for that, meaning we don't ask money on people's property taxes. That is funded entirely through, one, interest generated, and then two, the property replacement tax which is, funds given through us to the state comptroller's office that we have no control over, and that is essentially tax money received through businesses. And whether we use that money or not, that is money that we receive. So I think there's a little bit of a distinction there, but I do appreciate, the want and the need to be fiscally responsible.
Thank you for clearing that up, Supervisor Alex.
Karen or Ron?
Well, my only thought would be, again, it's the financial end of it, as long as we don't overspend. I know it is all property tax replacement tax, that, it's GA, the fund is so limited as to what we could spend it on, but I don't want to get to where we run out too, when something, an emergency comes up in GA.
Right.
So, obviously, just keep an eye. We got to keep a strong eye. We, as a board, have to
Right.
watch
Right,
it.
yes, sir.
Right. I will say, right now, we are receiving a good amount of property replacement tax, but even then, we have a very healthy amount of reserves. So we'd be able to see from a mile away if we were running out of funds, but point taken. And the other thing too, to the board, if the board wishes to see some metrics or some data, we can table this for next month. I want to make sure that if we do approve this, I want to make sure we approve it and everyone on the board is confident in their decision. So if we'd like some data, we can reconsider this in September. But Trustee Karen Johnson, I'd like to ask for you.
Yeah, I'm good, I'm all in for this. I look forward to when the county takes it over, but in the meantime, I think it's important that we not let this lapse with this. We had the presentations from the fire department on what a quick change they saw in Lockport Township, and people are taking advantage of it, and I think this is the future of our country. I just wanted to point out the client number that's there, you can kind of eyeball. That is a unique client number, so you can see how many people have had duplicate. They're kind of sorted like that, so you can see one person's had 5 sessions. And
Yeah,
someone's had
no, I
2.
know, I'm just saying,
So just eyeballing it
right,
each
right.
month.
And I'm sure with technology, there's a way to break that down. This person had 5, instead of me having to go through sheet after sheet.
Correct. It says sort by client number, yeah.
So on this intergovernmental agreement, along with the resolution, there's no number on here as far as what we're given for this.
Right, so we're not approving any funding. What we're doing as a board is we formally, again, this is a new term, this is a new board. So in order to continue this program, and we do currently still have funding in the line items, in order to continue this program, we would just be formally approving these documents. So we have formal documentation, that the board approves this. And for example, I'm not just, say, going rogue and doing this program without board consent. That's all it is. It's just formally documenting it. So, I would also like to point out, in terms of the future, those that were previously on the board will know, but I will fill in the rest of the board. I know around last year, August actually, so the townships as well as the fire departments, we do meet on a quarterly basis. In fact, I think we're due for another meeting. We're going to have one in a bit to just generally discuss the program. It's also good to act as one collective bargaining unit when we do discuss with ThriveWorks, etc. Back in August, the Joliet Fire Department, which is the biggest user of this program, were second. They actually had been approved to receive a little over $3 million from Springfield to fund this program countywide, and that would actually include reimbursements to each of the townships for this program. Here the thing is, back in August they had told us they were just waiting on a grant writer, and that they would be assigned a grant writer in 2 weeks. But I knew a little bit better, and I knew that 2 weeks would turn into several months. Well, it's now been almost a year exactly, and we still haven't seen that money from Springfield. So just being a bit pragmatic, like if I'm optimistic, hopefully, yes, Springfield gives us money. I do understand they have some budget issues that are coming up, but in some world, it is quite possible that we receive funding either from the state or potentially in some future the federal as well. But I'll check in actually with the fire department to see how that funding is doing. Because my understanding is it was approved, we were just waiting for that money to funnel down. All right, having said that, I believe most of the comments that I heard were pretty positive, so if we feel the need to table it, we can, but otherwise, I'll entertain a motion to approve Resolution 2025-1.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second that.
second by Dion Wright. Madam Clerk, could I please have the roll call?
Zapian?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Alberico?
Yes.
Wright?
Yes.
Motion carries. And now I'll entertain a motion to approve the intergovernmental agreement between Lockport Township Fire Protection District, and ThriveWorks for the provision of mental health services in Lockport Township.
I'll make that motion.
A motion by Karen Johnson,
I'll second that.
second by Dion Wright. Madam Clerk, could I please have a roll call as well?
Wright?
Yes.
Alberico?
Yes.
Johnson?
Yes.
Morelli?
Yes.
Zapian?
Yes. Right. Motion carries. And that is it for our approvals of the night. I won't go too in-depth with events, but again, our 2 back-to-school fair events that we had through the township went very, very well. Moving up to upcoming events, we have Romeo Fest coming up this week. I do want to point to items B and C in upcoming events. So one is the Army Corps of Engineers presentation. So I believe this was this in July? Karen, or was this in June? I believe this was several weeks ago, but the township did host the Army Corps of Engineers here one evening, and we invited residents from Fairmont to view the presentation from the Army Corps of Engineers. And what they did is, for the past several months, or over a year at this point, is surveying Fairmont in an attempt to draft a proposal for long-term solutions for the drainage issues they have out there. And so at the first session we had, it was mainly one, presenting their findings and asking for any input. Now this is part 2, and it's now that they've received input from the residents, the Army Corps of Engineers will actually have a set of options or a set of solutions, and they are hoping that they will receive resident input and will be able to choose one of the several solutions outlined. And so once we have a solution, we choose a solution, then the Army Corps will be able to propose a solution, and then we can get rolling. Now we can, they'll be able to draft comprehensive engineering specs. We do actually already have $5 million lined up in ARPA funding that land use helped us secure. Now this type of project, comprehensive, will need closer to $15 million, but that'll be over the course of several years, but $5 million is certainly an amount to get started on in Fairmont. So I'll invite the board to that presentation on August 19th at 5. That'll be here in the community room. And then second, Will County EMA would like to have a presentation here. And what it essentially is we're looking at formally certifying the township building as an emergency shelter. Now, we already do offer all of the amenities, and residents are always welcome to come during regular hours if they need a cooling center or a warming center. But the thing about being formally certified as an emergency shelter is it significantly increases the amount of grant opportunities that are available. And so Will County EMA would like to give a presentation, and it is open to all residents in the township. All it is they're just giving you a presentation of, in case of any emergencies, here are locations you can go to, what to do, etc. And again, that'll be on August 26th, and that'll be at 6 p.m. here in the community room. And after that, there's a list of other events coming up later this year. And as always, all board members are always welcome to attend. Any final comments from the board?
I guess the only comment I have is circling back to the Army Corps of Engineers for Fairmont. I know from past history that we did this already once with, I can't remember the engineering firm.
I think it might have been V3.
V3. And that didn't work, I guess.
Yes, so and that's a good point, because a couple of residents mentioned that. And so it essentially boils down to, one, because that was approved, I believe, back in 2015, 2018, and many things have changed. But one, without being too specific, there has been a group or an entity out in Fairmont that has been purchasing land out in Fairmont in massive amounts. And so whereas many of these properties were before going to be used for detention ponds or drainage, the landscape has changed. There's so much now that we can't use in Fairmont that it required another survey. It required another study. Thankfully, with the Army Corps, this is a partnership. It's through a grant. We haven't paid a penny for them. This is entirely.
And I hope it works, and I hope it does, because there's always been flooding down there. But, I hate to keep on throwing money at something and not have it fixed.
Right.
Obviously.
Right. Yeah. And thankfully, again, we haven't paid a dime here. And if we're able to start, in the next, let's say, 6 to 12 months, again, we have $5 million secured in federal funding. That if we actually don't secure with a proposal by end of 2026, we'll actually lose that funding. So I am hoping for several reasons that this is successful.
Yeah, part of it that I heard at that last meeting that I don't recall hearing before is that there's portions of Fairmont that don't have storm sewers, or they're compromised. So something as simple as that can help in some areas.
I know the last time D3 suggested they plant flowers and stuff, water,
Native plants.
it didn't work.
Yeah.
When it was proposed, I was pretty much told it's not going to work.
And part of that too was at the time we were going off of funding the township had, or funding the county had, and I know
The counties.
right, and so that funding, we're talking the amount of $300,000, $500,000, right? Like when we did some culverts in Riley Avenue, right, and now we're paving the road. Those are, quite frankly, kind of just Band-Aids that we're adding. And so when we're doing like little piece by piece, it might help a little bit in the short run, but we're looking long term. Let's look at a comprehensive study for Fairmont, right? I know when we've had listening sessions with Fairmont at their church or from here at the township, the main asks are, one, drainage, and we received lots of pictures because the flooding is out of control there. Two, their roads, which the highway commissioner and I are working on, because thankfully we have received funding from the state due to our state representatives. And then three, sidewalks. And sidewalks, ultimately, we're not able to do until we have drainage, because there's no gutters there, there's no drainage. And so that's why I'm hoping we have this study and we have this $15 million, we'll be able to do everything, not just little piece by piece every couple of years. All right, any final thoughts from the board? Could I entertain a motion to adjourn the Lockport Township regular meeting?
So moved.
I have a motion by Ronald Rico, second by Karen Johnson. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everyone.
Did you hear me that time?
We did. We used that water.
Oh my God.